Welcome, everybody. I'm Eva Dunn-Frobig. I'm Adventure Cycling's Short Trips Project Manager, and I've been at Adventure Cycling now for 6 years, working on events and outreach. Those programs include Bike Travel Weekend and Bike Your Park Day and our Ambassador program, which some of you might be familiar with, and we're going to be talking about them a little bit later because they fit in with the Short Trips initiative. I'm co-presenting today with Devin Cowens and Melinda Balshin, and they're going to introduce themselves to all of you. Devin, do you want to get started?
Sure, thanks. Hi everyone, my name is Devin Cowens, and I'm currently residing on the ancestral lands of the Muskogee Creek Nation, known today as Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an advocate for Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the cycling industry. I'm an event planner, and I manage a bikepacking group for women, trans, femme, and non-binary riders here in Atlanta. And I'm a member of the WTF Bike Explorers Gravel team. I've come to love bikepacking and have planned and coordinated a number of trips over the past couple of years. Melinda?
Thanks, Devin. It's so fun to see so many faces out there. As Eva said, I'm Melinda, and I, as well as Eva and the Adventure Cycling headquarters, are currently located on the ancestral lands of the Kootenai and Salish nations. And this land is also known as Missoula, Montana. I've been at Adventure Cycling for just about a year now, working with both our guided tours and doing route development for the Short Trips project. Prior to Adventure Cycling, I have extensive experience traveling by bicycle solo and self-supported, as well as leading guided bike tours, and specifically mentoring and coaching newer cyclists through organizations like Bike and Build and the Indiana University Student Foundation Little 500. Thanks. Okay, Eva, do you have something to say?
Yeah, so I just want to welcome everybody again. I think we probably had some more folks join us since we got started a couple minutes after the hour. I just want to start by saying we had a lot of interest in this event, so we're really excited that there's so many of you out there. Over 800 people RSVP'd to either attend this live event or to receive the event recording. So before we get started, just a couple housekeeping items. Please keep yourselves on mute. You will have an opportunity to unmute yourself at the end of the presentation and ask questions. You can also ask questions through the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. Please don't click on any links in the chat unless they're being posted by myself, Devin, or Melinda. We just don't want anyone to click on any malicious links. We will be going for about 20 minutes is all for this presentation. We want to give you a quick overview of the Short Trips initiative, and then we will be taking questions. So if you cannot stay for the entire program, that's okay. Feel free to leave at any time. And we are recording the event. So we'll be sending out the recording next week, along with a survey that we hope you'll take the time to fill out to tell us what your personal interest is in the Short Trips initiative. And we really hope that you will be interested in participating in the initiative because we're really excited about it. And we're relying on people like you who have a lot of knowledge about bike overnights and bicycle travel and enthusiasm, and you want to share that enthusiasm and passion with others to share, to encourage them and inspire them to go on a bike overnight or a short bicycle trip. So before we get into the Short Trips initiative, I'm going to start off by giving you a quick overview of what Adventure Cycling Association does. I'm sure many of you are familiar already, but we do a lot of different things. So I just want to make sure you all know about all of the things that we do related to bicycle travel or multi-day bicycle touring. Our mission is to inspire, empower, and connect people to travel by bike. We have over 50,000 members, and we are actually the largest cycling membership organization in North America. All of our members receive Adventure Cyclist magazine in the mail 9 times a year, and it has inspiring articles about traveling by bike and gear reviews and other great information about traveling by bicycle. We create bicycle routes and we make maps of those routes. We actually have 50,000 miles mapped as of now. And we're also helping create a different route network called the US Bicycle Route System. That's routes that are designated by states. We offer guided tours. We offer a variety of tours for people who want to ride with a group and have a trained tour leader lead them. And then we also have an online store called Cyclosource, where we sell our maps, and we also sell other bike travel gear and branded items. We do advocacy work to improve bicycle travel conditions. And we provide how-to resources to help people learn how to travel by bike. And we also do outreach to promote bicycle travel through events like Bike Travel Weekend, Bike Your Park Day, and our ambassador program, which I'm going to tell you more about later. So now I'm going to turn it over to Melinda, and she's going to get into the Short Trips Initiative.
So Adventure Cycling is working to create inclusive opportunities that encourage and support bicycle travel to both non-members and members, which lower barriers and increase accessibility. For the past 40 plus years, Adventure Cycling has gained a reputation as the North American bicycle travel experts. And a big piece of this initiative is sharing our resources and expertise to get more people traveling by bike. Specifically, we'll be developing and sharing free 2 to 5 day routes that are accessible from major metropolitan areas. We'll be providing educational resources about cyclotouring, and we'll be working with on-the-ground ambassadors to develop local bike travel communities. This initiative does include a specific prioritization on reaching and engaging Black, Indigenous, and people of color riders. And throughout this presentation, you might notice that we're using the term BIPOC. This is an acronym that stands for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And now Devin's going to tell us just a little bit more about short trips.
I have to keep reminding myself to unmute. Thanks, Melinda. So as Melinda said, the Short Trips Initiative will focus on creating these short routes that are 2 to 5 days from metro areas. As most of you know, adventure cycling has traditionally focused on long distance routes that go through rural areas. And these long routes just often assume a lot about a person's situation regarding time, safety, access, and ability. So not everyone has time to ride their bikes across the country, even go on a week-long tour due to vacation dates, paid time off at salary jobs, etc. Regarding safety and access, rural areas and routes off the beaten path are often unsafe or uncomfortable for BIPOC riders. I personally don't feel safe biking around the backwoods of Georgia, given both potential discrimination for the color of my skin and the current political climate. Rider ability. Long distance routes that travel on roads with no shoulder or high traffic are also not accessible to families or folks who don't have as much experience traveling by bike or just going on bike rides. We're hoping that the Short Trips Initiative will appeal to a range of interest. Most folks can fit a 1 or 2 night adventure into their lives to a location that's right in your backyard, and it doesn't have to be to some far off place. You need a couple of days to go on a bicycle overnight. It can be any distance, any accommodation. You can camp, stay at a hotel, stay in a yurt, go solo or with friends, and it can be any type of terrain: road, dirt, bike trails, backcountry. Melinda?
Thanks, Devin. So we'll be working in-house and with input from local volunteers to develop about 30 vetted and recommended short routes in 2021, with the intention of creating even more in 2022 and beyond. These routes will be focused around metropolitan areas, and they will be accessible on our website for anyone to use, in addition to being used by ambassadors to lead local events. These routes will be designed as loops and/or out and backs with different overnight accommodation options and services listed, but without a defined itinerary, so that travelers can break up daily mileage in a way that's appropriate for them. As Devin mentioned, when we say short routes, we're talking about 2 to 5 day routes. And so these routes will range in distance from about 30 to 40 miles on the short end and up to maybe 250 miles on the long end. And we'll be prioritizing roads, trails, and traffic levels that are appropriate for newer bike travelers. And now Eva's gonna tell us a little bit more about the Adventure Cycling Ambassador Program.
Great, thank you. Let's see, I just wanted to make sure I was unmuted. I guess I am. So yeah, so the ambassador program, I mentioned it before. We have had an ambassador program at Adventure Cycling Association for quite some time, but we've just recently made some changes to it. Previously, at least for the last decade or so, we've had a presentation that goes over how to go, or that goes over everything that adventure cycling does and volunteers who wanted to give that presentation in their community to share all of the adventure cycling resources and everything that we do with others could use that presentation. And then we also gave them resources like Adventure Cyclist magazines that they could share at their event. So last year we decided to change it a little bit and provide a more educational focus. Also thinking about the fact that we want to make bicycle travel more accessible and introduce the idea of going on a one-night trip rather than making folks think that maybe they have to ride their bike across the country or do more of an epic ride, and let them know that they can just have an adventure in their backyard. And it doesn't have to be anything long or exotic. So the presentation went over how to go on a bike overnight, and we had lots of interest in potential ambassadors to give that presentation. But then of course the pandemic started in March, and many ambassadors had to cancel their in-person presentations in their community, but many did give online presentations, which were really successful. And so I'm sure we'll continue giving online presentations or encouraging ambassadors to give online presentations, but we're hoping that they can get back into their community soon as well. And we're going to take the ambassador program a step further with the Short Trips Initiative by creating more educational resources that will be available for free for ambassadors who are interested to use. And ambassadors, not just in the metro areas that we're focusing on, can use them, but ambassadors who live throughout the world will be welcome to use them. So one resource will be basically a bike overnight curriculum that ambassadors can use to teach people in their community how to go on a bike overnight. And then we'll also be creating a bike overnight event guide for ambassadors to use to take a group of people in their community on a bike overnight. So we're really excited about the possibilities of these resources that will encourage people like you, we hope, to inspire and teach other people how to travel by bike and or maybe participate in those events. And Bike Travel Weekend and Bike Your Park Day are going to also be a big part of the Short Trips Initiative. Many of you may be familiar with them, but if you're not familiar with Bike Travel Weekend, it's held during the first weekend in June, and Bike Your Park Day is held during the last weekend in September. And we encourage people to go on 1 or 2 night bike trips during these weekends. And Bike Your Park Day is focused on exploring parks and public lands during that weekend and going for a ride in your community. So the way it works is we encourage you to go on a local bike trip or bike ride to parks and public lands using the resources that we have available on our website. And some folks want to lead a ride. Some folks also volunteer to be a resource for others in their community and provide advice and route suggestions for people who have never tried traveling by bicycle. And then other folks volunteer to promote rides during Bike Travel Weekend and Bike Your Park Day and make sure their community is familiar with it. So we're going to continue holding these events and encourage our ambassadors who are participating in the Short Trips Initiative to lead overnights during these weekends. And that doesn't mean that they can't lead overnights at other times of the year, but these will be our big weekends for the Short Trips Initiative. And as you can see from this map here, this is from Bike Your Park Day, I believe a couple years ago. And there's typically about 1,000 rides that are led by volunteers, and all of the dots are showing all of the numbers of rides that are occurring in different parts of the country. And we're hoping that those numbers will be especially big in the metro areas as we engage with ambassadors and help them with the resources that they need to lead rides. But this just shows how these events can create connections in the community. Some of the rides are open to the public, so they're available for other people in the community to join them and to meet other people in their community and have that camaraderie with other folks that also love to travel by bike. So that's also a big goal of the Short Trips Initiative, is that we want you to meet other people who also love to travel by bike and inspire them and be able to help others. So what is the role of ambassadors? I kind of went over it already, but just to reiterate, there's lots of different roles that ambassadors can play. One is leading a bike overnight for a group of people in your community, teaching a bike travel clinic or a bike overnight clinic, helping promote the events, or just even you can participate in the events if you're not interested in being an ambassador. We may also have route ambassadors that will help maintain routes and make sure that their services along the routes are still open and available. So there's lots of different roles that you could play as an ambassador if you're interested in that. We also are wanting to partner with organizations and businesses in the metro areas, especially that also their missions overlap with what we're interested in doing and inspiring more people to go on a bike overnight. So, this can include a bike shop, a bike club, a meetup group, another business or organization that just has an interest in getting more people out riding bikes on a short trip. So, at least a one-night bike adventure. So now I'm going to hand it over to Devin, who's going to talk a little bit more about how we want to engage with ambassadors.
I love that I'm also as the Short Trips Initiative will take place in metro areas where adventure cycling doesn't have staffing, ambassadors will play a critical role in supporting this effort. ACA has a long history in appealing to an older crowd. Folks who are mostly retired can get months off at a time from work, and also identify as cis white men. As ACA continues to expand and create maps in metro areas, it's really essential to connect with folks in those areas who are experienced riders, experienced cyclists, but who also reflect the direction the organization is going, being intentional around representation and equity. For the Short Trips Initiative, we will recruit paid ambassadors, and as Melinda said, prioritizing BIPOC folks to do this, to assist with route development in these key metro areas, and I'm excited to be supporting this initiative. I recently led a Ride Leader pilot program for Bike Your Park Day and Bike Travel Weekend, and we connected with a number of experienced bike packers who identified as BIPOC and or women, trans, femme, or non-binary. They became ride leaders, and we gave them a stipend to take small groups on overnights and received a lot of great feedback. We'll be implementing a similar model for the ambassador program, including stipends and support our ride leaders, acknowledging the labor required and participating. Melinda will go into a little bit of detail around the metro areas.
Thanks, Devin. So for the first year of the Short Trips Initiative, we've selected 8 metro areas that we'll be specifically focusing on. And these are Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Austin, Minneapolis, Boston, Washington, DC, and Atlanta. And to choose these areas, we basically crunched a lot of different numbers, looking at everything from demographic information, current cycling infrastructure, areas where adventure cycling already has a big presence and lots of contacts, as well as places where we have a lot of opportunities. And our goal is to continue expanding to more metro areas each year. And if you don't see your metro area on this list, it doesn't mean you can't be a part of this initiative. You can still be an ambassador, and our resources will be available to you. These are just the areas that we're going to be focusing our specific time and attention on. And Eva, I believe you have some more to say?
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the presentation, and so thanks for hanging in there with us. But yeah, we just want to conclude with letting you know that we hope that you will be involved, and that we are sending out a survey next week that will ask you a few short questions to gauge your interest in being involved. This is a huge project, and we need you to be successful, and we need other people that you may know to be successful as well. So we hope that you'll share this with people in your communities who may be interested in some part of the initiative, whether it's being an ambassador or helping develop routes, or just promoting what we're doing in the different metro areas. So yeah, our goal is to create camaraderie and connection and getting more people to discover the transformative power of bicycle travel. And of course, our primary goal is also making bicycle travel more accessible to people and introducing them to the idea of going on a short bicycle trip. So finally, I also want to mention that if you are interested in contributing financially to the project, we do have a link on our website where you can donate, and I will share that in the chat. But our main focus today is to see how many of you out there are interested in being part of this initiative and just share our overall vision with you. And we do have a lot of details to figure out. So we are going to now take questions. We may not be able to answer all of those questions, but we'll do our best. And that's going to be part of the survey that we send out to is getting ideas from you and gauging your interest. So with that, Melinda is going to manage the questions. And I want to thank you again for joining us.